All right, welcome back. Technique Tuesday for another week. So this week's going to be slightly different. We had a question come through and somebody asked me, how do you get depth in your squat? And more specifically, this person had been told that what they should do is just simply turn their feet out, turn their toes out, so that they can get depth in their squat. Now, we know some certain things and we know some specifics about this person, which I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. This video is going to be a little bit longer than our other Technique Tuesdays, just because there is a lot to unpack. But before I start, as I went through last week when we were talking about the wrist warm-ups, with this particular question, context is needed. We need to really know what it is you're training for, why you're squatting, and what you are trying to get as an outcome for this. Now, one thing that we do and we offer remote movement screens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a link in the comments in the video section, or if it's on Instagram, it will be on our profile, where if you are looking for more advice as it pertains to you specifically and how you can potentially get range in your squat, or should you get range in your squat, then book yourself in for a remote assessment so that we can give you a better understanding of everything as it pertains to you, because this isn't a one-size-fits-all type deal. So if we look at the squatting movement, when we talk about range, what most people are looking for when they're talking about range is they're trying to get the crease of the hip below the top of their knee. Now, one way that you can just simply aesthetically get that range is to turn your toes out, because that's going to allow you to keep a more upright torso as you go down. So first thing we need to know before we start prescribing any of this is, what are you training for? What's the reason for your training? Now, we believe that the squat is one of the pillars of our program, and it is kind of almost the king of all movements. So it's something that should be in a well-balanced program. However, some people lack mobility through their ankles, their hips. It may even be thoracic mobility if we're doing a back squat to actually get that barbell on our back. It might be something to do with their knees. It could also be a glute imbalance, and it might be that your glutes are weak, hamstrings are weak. There are a whole bunch of reasons why you may not be able to get to range. So simply just being told that I need to turn my toes out in order to get range is just a lazy answer to what should be a complex question. Now, if we're talking about the way we coach the squat, and if we're talking about what we want for our general health and well-being clients, then firstly we need to know what squat we're talking about. We're talking about a front squat, or we're talking about a back squat. I'm going to specifically talk about the back squat because it's probably the most common one. And if we're doing a back squat, what we're looking for if somebody's training for general health and fitness is we're looking for posterior chain recruitment. And in order to get that, if I turn my toes out, what's going to happen is it's going to give me a more upright torso. It's going to be a more quad dominant movement. Whereas if I'm squatting, toes forward, and I'm sitting back into the movement, trying to use that stretch reflex in my glutes and the hamstrings and really driving up out of the bottom, it's going to give me more posterior recruitment, which for a lot of people, especially if you sit all day, is going to be something which is going to need to be worked on, because if we sit all day, we're going to have really tight hamstrings, we're going to have weak glutes. So as we sit back into that squat and really utilize that posterior chain, it's going to help us build the musculature there that is going to grow weaker from sitting a lot. Now, in saying that, when we get people to squat like that, if you have ankle mobility problems, hip mobility problems, glute weaknesses, you're not necessarily going to be able to get to quote-unquote range. Why is it important to get to range? Well, that also comes down to you as an individual. Do you really need to go to range? Well, my answer is no, okay? Because range is something that is dictated as, usually for, if we look in the CrossFit space, it's usually something so you can be judged in competition, so that you've got a level playing field. Now, if you're just training for general health and fitness and you're adding the squat into your program, you should be going to your range. Now, what that looks like is going to be different. For us, the saying that we use to dictate ranges, it is as low as you can go, maintaining good posture and position. Now, if I go here, okay, and I can squat to here where the crease of my hip is above the top of my knee, but as soon as I go any lower, everything caves in, my knees start to cave in, my back starts to round out, and I start to round out that spine, I'm going to get you to stop at the point where you've maintained good posture and position and drive up out of there. Because going to range is putting you in an unsafe position. And if that is the case, if I'm squatting toes forward on a back squat, telling you to simply turn your toes out just so you can get this desired range is not going to be the best thing for you, because for what we want to achieve out of the squat, if you are training for general health and fitness, and this is a very broad recommendation, again, specifics, if you specifically are training for something different, then it's going to be a different recommendation. But if we are telling you to turn your toes out and we're doing it with a nice upright torso, and we know that we're trying to use this movement to get more posterior recruitment, then we're not giving you the right recommendation as it pertains to you. So for us, the answer is just not as simple as let's turn our toes out. We need to know a little bit more. Do we generally tell people to back squat toes forward? Yes, because for general health and fitness or field sport athletes, you're going to get more posterior recruitment. Now, an instance where you may turn your toes out, weightlifting. If you're an Olympic weightlifter, you're probably going to want to squat with a more vertical torso. Therefore, you're going to allow your toes to turn out a little bit more, because when we're snatching or when we're clean and jerking, we're going to catch the movement, which is part of our sport, in that position. I've kind of ranted on there. There is a lot that I have gone through, but to condense it down and to finish this off, firstly, when it comes to you getting range in your squat, do you really need to? What is it that you're training for? If you are training for a sport that requires you to get range in a squat, then you need to work to get to that range. But simply turning your toes out to do that is not going to be the most effective way to do it. In fact, you may find that if that is the only workaround that you are being told to do, you may find that it causes you injury and it causes you problems. So to finish, if you need some help and you'd like us to do a movement screen or a movement assessment with you, either in-house or virtually, there'll be a link in the comments, there'll be a link in our profile where you can go ahead and you can book a time for us to jump on a Zoom call, or you to come in and we can look at it and we can give you more specifics as it pertains to you and your squat and what you should be looking to do. All right, thanks guys. Any questions, let me know. Know we've gone through a lot today. If you need me to unpack any specifics on this video, let's do it. If you liked it, share it. If you didn't, bye.